Hey everybody, welcome to J Stern Designs. For Quick Tip Thursday this week, I'm kicking off the Ponte Knit jean pattern adventure, and I thought a great place to start would be to talk about the fabric I'm going to be using. I'm going to be using Ponte Knit, and Ponte Knit is a double knitted fabric that is very stable and doesn't have a ton of stretch. Early Ponte Knits were made primarily of just polyester, and they were very rough and uncomfortable. But now what they've done is they've added rayon in with the polyester to make it more comfortable and softer. And also there's spandex in there, so it gives a stretch, but not like a crazy amount of stretch like a rayon jersey. So it's pretty hefty because it's a double knit, and it has approximately 10 to 15% stretch when you get it mixed with polyester and rayon. It is possible to find rayon, 100% rayon Ponte Knits. Those are softer and I think a little bit more stretchy. But for this project, I'm going to be using polyester rayon blend, and I'm really excited to do this because I really think it's going to make an amazing pair of knit jeans that are comfortable to wear and are going to look great. So I'm super excited about this. I have some Ponte Knit in front of me, and this is a piece that I bought when I was at the National ASG conference in LA a few years ago, and I've had it in my stash and I haven't used it, and I thought instead of going out and buying a more jean-like color to play with, I'm going to start my first testing with this. And if you look close, you can see it's got a subtle horizontal or across the grain weave. So there's like these subtle, lines going across the fabric. And I played with the stretch of it, and you can see it stretches, but it springs back. All right, so across 5 blocks would be 5 inches, and I want to see how far I can pull it to test the amount of stretch it has. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to hold it there and I'm going to pull it. I can pull it halfway across without really stretching it out of shape. I can make it to a full inch, which would be 20% stretch. But when I do that, I'm really pulling it. So this fabric probably has between 10 and 15% stretch, which I think is going to be great. Some Ponte Knits are 2-way stretch, meaning they just stretch across the grain, and others have a 4-way stretch. So if I test this across the grain, I just showed you that it does have some stretch. And then if I turn it on its side so I can pull it the lengthwise, you can see it has a very slight amount of give. So I would say it has maybe, 5%. Not a lot of stretch lengthwise, but that's going to come into play when I work on my pattern, because if a fabric is going to stretch lengthwise, the pattern pieces need to be a little bit shorter through the rise and to get the knee in the right spot. So it's important to kind of check that out to see if it has any give in the lengthwise direction. So I have a little bit of give, maybe 5%, and about 10 to 15 on the cross grain. All right, so I researched sources for Ponte Knit quickly before I started this quick tip, and if you go online to moodfabric.com, they have a great selection. I feel happy recommending Mood Fabric because they're very reputable, and if you go online, you can order swatches, and you're going to get a good quality fabric from them. So I know that they have a good selection. I'll give you more sources for Ponte Knit next week as I start working on this a little more in depth. It's also known as a Ponte di Roma. That's another name for it. So if you see Ponte Knit or Ponte di Roma, it's really the same fabric. Because it has rayon, I'm going to wash it twice and dry it just to make sure it's not going to shrink after I cut it out. So I'm going to wash and dry. Well, I'll probably wash twice and dry once to get it ready to go, and then I'm going to play with it on the weekend. Okay, so part 2 of my quick tip is I want to answer a question that I received from Paula in my email regarding the fit of her women's tee pattern. And I'm going to read to you her question, and then I'm going to answer it. And I think this is kind of fun because if you're sitting there with the T pattern, wondering how to fit, you may have this exact question or something similar. So let me go ahead and read this to you. The armhole seems a bit high. Just wondering about the best way to lower it. Use the standard redraw a bit lower and add to the cap, question mark. All right, so let me deal with that question first. If you're making your T, and it really doesn't matter what size it is, and you find that the armhole is in your, right in your armpit, it is too high up for you. So the answer is yes. I would scoop it down a little bit lower and make it a little bit deeper. Before you go ahead and adjust the cap, you can walk the sleeve along the new line of the pattern to see if you need to add to the cap. Because bringing it down a little bit, it's going to add a little bit of length, but you're not going to know exactly how much you need to add to the cap without walking the sleeve in the armhole. So I'm going to put a link to how to walk a sleeve in an armhole because I've already done that as a quick tip. So you can see how to check that out after you've scooped out your front and back armhole. Just make sure when you scoop it out, you keep a little bit of a horizontal line here. Don't come down at a point because then you'll have a teardrop shaped armhole. Please let me know if that's a good answer. If you have any other questions about that, please post them either below or on my blog at Stern Designs, and I'll help you further. The second part of her question is, the front chest above the bust width is about 1/2 inch too wide on both sides. It's bunching at the front armhole. In looking at the pieces, I wasn't sure whether to divide this among the seams or to remove from the larger piece and the center. All right, so the question is, how do I take this in if it's too wide? So if your sides are 1/2 inch too wide and it's bunching under the arm, you certainly can take it in, and I would take it in between the seam, between the center front and the side front upper bodice pieces. You can get rid of 1/4 on each of those and take that in. That's one solution. Another solution would be to maybe try cutting out the size 16, because if it's too big across here, it may be that you just need a smaller size. And depending on how it's bunching under your arm, it may be too big in this whole area, meaning that the top portion of the lower bodice might be too big too, and you really could use a smaller size. That being said, it may be that you cut out the size 18 because you needed the room here. So if that is the case, you could relax the fit of the lower pieces to make more room through your waist and hip, and then have the smaller size on top that fits. I guess there's one other option. It could be that you need to full bust adjust the T in the smaller size to make room for your bust. So that could be a third reason why maybe you chose a bigger size, but it's too big on top. So you can either take in the top pieces along the seam, or you can cut out the size 16 and then reshape the lower bodice pieces by either doing a full bust adjustment or just relaxing the fit of the T depending on how it's fitting. So Paula, I hope that answers your question. If it doesn't, please, either shoot me another email or you can comment on the blog post. I'll put links to how to relax the fit of the T, how to do a full bust adjustment on the T. So you have those to see how to make those adjustments. And I really appreciate you taking time to email me with your question because, I really like to, help my students or my customers make these, make their teas and not, struggle with it. So feel free to email me questions if you have them, and, I'll try to answer, as quickly as I can. So I hope you guys have a great weekend. I'm going to be working on my knit jean muslin, and I'll share that with you on Quick Tip Tuesday. So that's it for today, and I hope you have a great weekend.